All right. Hey, we are in for today's 8-minute Bible video. I wanted to talk to you just a few more things about as we've been kind of getting on with this topic. So, welcome. Glad you're here. Okay, if you'll look at the background that I'm at right now, I promised my kids that if I went live today, I would go somewhere different. And I'm in my library, not a background. It's my library. We have done some improvements since you guys have been gone from quarantine, and so I've decided I always wanted a library like the one that Beast had in Beauty and the Beast, and this is pretty close. I mean, it's not much, but it's okay. I mean, look. I can pull a book. I just pulled a book out. Watch, I'm pulling up ones from here. I got books everywhere. But anyways, my kids, I asked them this morning, I said, where do you want Dad to go to do his video today? And of course, they answered with the following. So I'm going to go, and I'll be back in just a minute. And so you watch as I head to this new place for this Bible study today. That's right! It's Chuck E. Cheese! So, I don't know if, poor Chucky, as you see his dance moves. Oh man, come on Chucky, we just can't. This is going to be hard. I hope Chuck E. Cheese makes it. Though I'm a Peter Piper fan, and they're part of the same family, I don't know if they will. Okay, but that is to be said that we are going to go and we're going to start talking about, we're going to start doing our 8-minute study. So here we go. Let me get this out. I got to get out of the dance and back on to this. Okay, so here we are today, and we're talking about, we've been talking about the church is a people. It's not a place, it's a people. Now, I do want to walk through some things I've been thinking about, of just a few more things as we get ready to take on the next week. I've been going through Revelation with some of our, those who are in the 20-year-old age bracket at our church. It's just something that right now, even though we can't really get together, we're trying this. We're trying to read and go through it. So I've been challenged to go through the book of Revelation. We're going to go through the book of Daniel as a church, starting in about 2 weeks. And I think that's going to help, a lot of help to understanding this. But it was interesting, this whole concept we've been dealing with, talking with the past few days about the church being a people. So here's what I want to do. I want to show you something that kind of has stood out when I've been going through Revelation. So let's show you this. I'm going to go over to Revelation chapter 2. And one of the first things you need to know is Jesus is talking to he's talking to local churches. Each church has its own set of problems. Each church has its own context. And each church has little things that the people there have either done that he needs to address. And so he starts, of course, right here with the church in Ephesus. And so the church of Ephesus there, he speaks to them. And then one of the things that he tells them is he tells some of the things that we know about them and how they've endured. And then at the end of that, he tells them, here's what I like about you, what you've been doing. But then I think the other thing that's important to see in all of this is if you see this word right here, the repent, right? I'm going to highlight that. Repent. That even as the church has its good things and its bad things, at the end of it, he just says, repent. Don't do that and get back on it, right? Look at the letter to Smyrna. Now, so there's a short letter to Smyrna, and it seems like that they've got a whole nother set of problems. And so this is a different city. It's a different local congregation that he's dealing with. He doesn't just blanketly just say, boom, you guys all got the same problems. He's dealing with them on a case-by-case basis. Now, truth be told, there's kind of two opinions when it comes to the churches in Revelation. One is that they are symbolic of like the church age, and that's a held viewpoint. Another is that they're just symbolic of the churches in general, and so he points out these 7 because the things that he says to these 7 literal local congregations are things that every congregation needs to hear. That being said, these are real places, real churches, real people that had real struggles and real things going on, and they all were different because he doesn't say the same thing. He gives them the same task, though. These are the things I need you to do. Repent from the stuff that you've done and get back to me. Those are the things that he talks to them about. But notice, like in this case, in Smyrna, it says that there are these Jews who are of the synagogue of Satan. And so that is, some have believed were a synagogue that was a strong synagogue that was in the area that heavy persecution was coming from. So instead of being called a synagogue of the Lord, and since they're fighting against the church, he calls them the synagogue of Satan. Look at this one with Pergamum, right? So Pergamum, you've got right here, I know, verse 13, I know where you live, where Satan's throne is. Now that is crazy because you start to think, wow, like that's got to be a difficult place. Every church, you kind of think, well, the area's gotten different than it used to be. Question might be, is our church near Satan's throne? I don't know. And as you try to work through all of that, what does John mean, and what does that mean to the original hearers about that stuff? I think it is something to say is that was probably a very difficult area to minister in. If that's what's being said, even if that's figurative, you got to think about that. Now, each church, like I said, look, you've got these doctrines that have come in that they've all had to deal with them. Some of them, seems like some of them all deal with some of the same kind of sins. But then once again, verse 16, repent. And then you've got Thyatira. And in here, he talks about some of the stuff that they've been messing around. They tolerate certain things in their church that they shouldn't be tolerating. And then you find that he says he needs you to repent, right? And then just to, and then there's others, though, who are in the church still that he's saying, like, that there are others who are there that are still not, even though they're part of that local body, they're not fully involved with some of the stuff that he's kind of characterizing the whole church of. If you look at Sardis here, he tells them what to do. He needs to tell them, once again, that they need to repent from the things that they have done before. You get to the church of Philadelphia. Philadelphia in those days, not modern day Philadelphia. And notice that in the same thing, he has, there's another church, there's another synagogue of Satan that we see here. It seems like this was another strong synagogue that they had that was actively fighting against the church. And then he tells them, that I'm gonna come. Hold on to what you've got. Endure. And then the Laodicea, and this is the one everyone knows about. This one is, you're not hot, you're not cold. I'm gonna spit you out. And he says, you say I'm rich, I become wealthy, I need nothing. And so get back, repent. So all that to say, I think is an interesting thing because it appears, at least biblically, that each local congregation, has characteristics about it. Not everybody's involved with that stuff, but there's generally a culture or an atmosphere that makes up that church. And so the question I want to ask, for us today at Royal Palms is, if a letter were to be written to our church, what would be said? Because it's not going to be a church. There's an air about Royal Palms that needs to be said. There's an air about Royal Palms that Jesus has every right to address. It's his church. So we might ask the question, what do you think he would say to us? What do you think might be some of the things, if he were to write the same thing like he was doing to those churches? Would there be things in there? And then the beauty of all of that is, though, too, is whatever you might think, right? Whatever you might say, well, this is what we're not doing, and this is how we're doing. All that aside, ultimately Jesus is the judge of the church, right? I love how it just says repent. And so he's saying, change, get back on it, do what you need to do. So all that to say is, I think that's an interesting thought to think about. What would Jesus say to us as a group, as a body that are represented here? And the other thing I think would be interesting to think about is if he were to ask what we might need to do, or what emphases, each one he would say, like, hey, you lost your first love, you're not hot, you're not cold, all those things, you think you're rich, all those characteristics. There might be something to say about okay, so what might be things that we need to turn towards, right? All of them are kind of essentially get back to the gospel, get back to biblical teaching, get rid of the garbage is a lot of what he was saying there. Some of that's just saying hold tight because it's going to be rough, the ride that's coming. But I do think that one of the things that we're going to be talking about over the next couple weeks is decide to take a little bit of a shift in what we're going to be doing. Is we're going to be talking about family. We're going to be talking about one of the legacy that Royal Palms wants to leave and lead on, which is how do we minister to our families better? And so I'm not going to give a lot of it right now. We're going to talk more about it, but we're looking at, as staff, we've been saying, what is our legacy as our church? What is it that we want to be known for? As we read those letters in Revelation, you see what these churches were kind of known for and the people that made them up. What can we do as a people, and where are we, and what are things that we need to begin to work towards? And one of the things that we're going to be talking about starting next week is family and discipling our families as we move forward, and being a church that does that well and leaves that sort of a legacy. Because all of us are going to be responsible before the Lord one day of how we led our lives. Us as pastors will be an account to the Lord for what we've done with our churches. But we should ask, what do we lead? What do we leave behind? How do we lead now? All right, this is really fun. I'm not going back to Chuck E. Cheese. That was too wild. But I'm going to find some new. If you have some ideas for some new backdrops that you'd like for me to possibly, places, not backdrops, let me know. As usual, I say these are 8-minute videos and they go to at least 12. But that's it. No more than 12. I give you my guarantee. All right, talk to you guys later. See ya. Have a great weekend.